To my dearest colleague, I am remiss to inform you that the flooding in my home city has continued for many long weeks, leaving much of the city underwater. Thankfully, my apartment is on the upper floors, and I have not suffered great losses, though it does make it challenging to leave the building for groceries. I've received a letter from our mentor detailing that she has gone missing, and that requires my magical aid in Hyrenook. Although I haven't worked with magical potions in many years, I think it is time for me to leave the city as the flooding continues. I have been promised a bit of land and a cottage to stay in, so it is a relief that I have a place to go to during this sky whale mating season, which has caused a lot of the flooding in this city. I write to you so that there is a record of my findings as I go through to discover what has happened to our mentor for her to have left this house to me. I am unsure what I will find in this new place of living, but I hope that it will be pleasant and that everything can be resolved quickly. Sincerely, the Witch Eveline. Hello, beautiful people. Today we will be going over Apothecaria. It is a solo adventuring game that you use a deck of cards to play. I actually like to use a deck of tarot cards so that way I can add a little bit more to the story. Apothecaria is about you're a witch apprentice who is looking for your mentor who has gone missing in this small town of Hyrenook. There you help people cure their ailments, greet them, get to know them, and go on adventures all across the surrounding lands to see what clues you may find about your missing mentor. As you progress, you not only get to learn the surroundings, but you also become more skilled in being a potion maker. For those of you who like Stardew Valley, any kind of like comfy cozy game, Animal Crossing, there's even a game out that is very similar to the premise of this about being a potion maker. I forgot its name right now. If you like those sort of low stakes game, then this is going to be a great journaling adventure for you. So today we're going to go over all the mechanics of the game, how to play, and the first adventures that I have played in this book. This is a game that I play off and on because of how involved I get in with writing the story, but you do not have to be as detailed as I am. I will show you both the simplified way of doing it and the more complex way that I have been doing it. So let's get started. Apothecaria is a solo potion making RPG, and it is broken down into 5 parts. This journaling game was written by Anne Blackwell from Blackwell Games and is definitely worth checking out. Your first part is the introduction, telling you how to play and introducing you to the whimsical voice of your mentor. The letter you have received from your mentor, it goes as thus. If you are reading this, I am probably missing or dead. Let's hope just missing. I wish I could be there to explain all this in person, but life has unexpected paths. Hopefully this journal will be enough to guide you. First up, welcome to Hyrenook. It is a nice place, even if the people can be a little disaster prone. You'll be taking up my place as the village witch, and I'll be responsible for curing them of their injuries or diseases they've managed to pick up. Thankfully, curing folks ain't that hard, mostly just a matter of finding what's wrong with them and checking what regulants work for that. I don't know how much you've been taught a farce, so don't be insulted if their instructions seem simple. To play this game, you must diagnose the problem in your patient, must find the different regulants. There are 3 different types of regulants: plants, animals, magic, and they are all located across the first 4 sections that you can access, which is the forest, the loch, the mountain, and the dungeon. Then you go foraging for those items in each of those locations, and you prepare the potion based off of the description of the regulants. As you build your skills, you'll be able to diagnose more advanced stuff, change locations. There are consequences for some of the diseases and ailments that your patients catch if there is a timer set. And as you are able to cure them, you will gain a reputation. The book says that you start in spring, but for the purposes of my book, because of when I started it in fall. I like to go with the seasons as much as possible. So when I initially started playing the game, it was during the fall and I was feeling a lot of fall vibes. When you're looking through the ailments, it will have different markings of things that you will be needing to cure, such as for this one, Apothecaria, it is a curse, and you need something to cure curse and hair, and you have a timer of 6. And if you don't fulfill that timer of 6, there will be consequences, such as they will go on a rampage and you lose 1 reputation point, and you need to describe the aftermath. So as you go through and look at the different regulants, you will need to find a regulant that matches curse and matches hair. Each of the stars represents the potency of the regulant, and you will need to have a regulant that is equal to or greater than the value of the stars for you to help cure that ailment. A timer shows how many turns you are allowed to take while foraging before your patient either goes to another doctor or runs crazy or does something that is out of the norm, and you lose points and silver. Once you've gathered up all of your regulants, you want to make the potion following the different descriptions that is given for each of the regulant. Some of the regulants have either a sweetness point or a poison point, which either increases or decreases the amount of silver you earn, whether it is a sweetness or a poison. At the beginning level, you earn 20 silver, and as your skills increase to intermediate, it is 30 silver, advanced is 40 silver, and expert is 50 silver. The patients that you help along your journey can be a variety of people. This suggests you pull them from your imagination, or if you want to use the deck of cards that you will be playing with, hearts is for villagers, diamonds is for adventures, clubs is for monsters, and spades is a repeat patient that you've already helped before. Because I am playing with a deck of tarot cards, I paired each of the symbols up with their related card suite, and this allows me to expand the different conversations and things I can have with the characters, so I'm not fully relying on my imagination. Each card has a different meaning behind it, and that can represent what that person is like and how I like to interact with that person. I also do this because it can help me build a more interesting event and story outcome based off of the images of the cards rather than just solely relying on my imagination. This is an extra step that I am taking. You do not have to take this. This is just so I can have more randomized encounters that fit the narrative that I am going for. Please just keep it simple. So if you don't want to get too overwhelmed by how long the story can be. The silver that you can get is used as more than just a point system. You can also use the silver to help get different items to help along your quest. So the things that you are initially given is a mortar and pestle, a cauldron, an alchemic, but there are other things that can give you extra points that you can buy, such as a sickle that costs 50 silver, a wand that costs 100 silver, an athame that costs 80 silver, a broom that costs 100 silver, and a corral costs 70 silver. Each of these things will either give you extra points or allow you to travel into different areas that was at first not able to get to, such as the broom or the carousel. There are upgrades that you can make to the house that you are staying in that gives you a little extra bonus, such as a garden plot, a hive, a fish tank, a paddock, a basement hollow, and a
Glimmer Wood Greenhouse, as well as many more items that you can use to buy with your silver. Now we're getting into character creation. Of course, you will be playing as yourself if you don't want to create a separate character, but if you do want to create a separate character that is not your own, you are welcome to do so. To summon your familiar, you will mix up your deck of cards and you will pull a card to determine what it is. If you get Ace, you can get a rodent. 2 is a raptor, 3 is an amphibian, 4 is a canid, 5 is a corvid, 6 is a snake, 7 is a feline, 8 is an insect, 9 is a reptile, 10 is a mount, Jack is a magic creature, and King or Queen is a mythical creature. I ended up getting a Jack, so I ended up getting a spirit. And then here is the different personality types that your familiar can have. That gives your familiar a bonus. I ended up getting 8, which is a hunter, which helps when I am foraging for an animal. When choosing a different ailment, you want to shuffle your deck of cards and pull from the list that you have here, from Ace all the way to King and Queen, and then go through and solve each of them. I ended up creating a series of worksheets to help you keep track of the different things you're going through when you are solving for the ailment. Think of it like a potion card. So you put the ailment card, number of the card from there, the patient's name, and their job title if you wish. You write down the ailment, its requirements, its consequences, and then you go through the regulant list to help you find a cure. I like to use this as an easy guide for when I'm writing because it will prevent me from having to flip back and forth between the front of the book of how to play and the rest of the exploration part of the game. I have these available for free on my Ko-fi. Getting into the exploration part of foraging for the items that you are looking for, it is broken down into 4 steps. The first step is to shuffle your deck of cards and pull from your deck of cards to determine what you will get. So I got, in this case, the 2 of, and then I would need to compare that to the regulant that I need to find. Just assume that I have chosen a regulant that requires 1 point to find, such as the driftwood memory. Since this only requires 1 point to find and I pulled a 2, that means that I have been able to easily find that item. But if I were to look for a different item that is of a greater value and I pulled a 2, then that means I was not able to find that item, such as the golden scale guppy. I would need a 5 or greater to be able to find. As you go and explore the different areas, there are different events that will happen. I pulled a 2. This is the event that happened at the Miltwater Lock, and I will need to resolve and journal about it, which in this case I would lose 1 foraging point. After I have successfully collected a regulant, you gain a foraging value point that you can use to help you find the next item, which you will draw for step 4, you will draw and repeat steps 1 through 3. If you need to move to a new location, your timer, if you have one, decreases by 1. I will show you how I played all of this out in my own game, so that way it's a little bit easier to understand. Now there is a village that you can visit and that can help you gain different items and help you interact with the different villagers that you create or come across. In town there are 4 main locations that can help you, such as the Copper Fox Tavern, the Lunar Tower, the Bits and Bobs, and the Ritual Circle. Each of these, when you visit them during your downtime, can help you with your foraging or finding different items or help you adventure. During your downtime, you want to split that into 6 segments. Think of it as you are doing something new each day. You can either go foraging, exploring the town, greeting your neighbors, or spending time decorating and building your house. Once that timer is up, it is a new week that you can participate in. You only want to solve 1 ailment per week. There are festivals that you can participate in. Each season lasts 13 weeks or less if you want to have the story continue on more, if you don't want the season to be as long. If you haven't pulled a Joker card, which represents you finding a clue for your missing mentor, then after the end of a season, you find a clue related to your mentor's disappearance. The story you're writing about takes a year in-game to complete, follows each of the different seasons, broken down into the first step, about the witch, the plot thickens, and the finale. So each time you pull a Joker or get to the end of a season, you want to complete each of these. This means that it gives the game replayability because each time something different has happened to your mentor and you must solve the mystery yourself for getting to the finale. And then by the end of it, you will have a fully fleshed out, written adventure that you have drawn from your imagination to create with the guide of this book. And that's what I love about solo adventures and solo journaling games. Now let me show you how the first part of my game was played.
For a normal deck of cards, you usually just have the main suites and your Joker cards. But for a tarot card deck, you have your major arcana, your minor arcana, and then in the case of this deck, you have 2 bonus cards. For how I play the game, I use the minor arcana the same way that I would use the main suite cards in a regular playing deck, and then I use the bonus cards as in place of my Jokers. For the major arcana, I actually use this as a way to decide the personality of the characters that I pull and what kind of characters they will be based off of the imagery and the meaning of the card. That way I can just have more interesting storytelling because I tend to kind of make my side characters all very similar. Like I said, you don't have to do this. You can just stick with your main suite and your Joker cards. For my journaling adventure, I call it Apothecary and Conundrums, Letters from the Witch Evelyn. I've structured them as letters that you've received from your work colleague about the adventures and the discoveries that she's had as she travels from one town to another. When I got started with this story, I wanted to kind of figure out a little bit more about my character before I got started. So I asked myself, how did I get there? I pulled the 8 of Lotuses. Was there any trouble? I pulled an Ace of Lotuses. And who helped me? I pulled the Peacock. Questions and things that I wrote in just because I was trying to understand the story and understand the rules of the game a little bit better was settling into the cottage. What familiar did I summon? And I wrote a little bit about the calling ritual, which I pulled the Entertainer / Knight of Pentacles, and for the calling ritual, I pulled an 8 of Trees, representing the hunter. So that's how we got a magic hunter. Using the imagery as a card to help inspire the story, I ended up drawing pieces of the story that I wrote out in the letters, drew out a little bit of the things that I had access to for having fun with journaling this. I even experimented with some different mediums like gouache, which is different from the watercolor and ink that I usually use. For the first ailment, I pulled the 4 of Pentacles, which turned out to be dragon sickness, which was very fitting for this card because the deeper meaning of this card for the 4 of Trees or 4 of Pentacles is greed. If you feel your time is not valued, confront the problem or focus efforts elsewhere. And I thought that was very interesting because the person that I pulled was Sacrifice, and Sacrifice deals with feeling like you've given up everything, like you've toughed everything out and hold dear, and you're having a really hard time letting go of control, which fits well with dragon sickness. So these two helped me flesh it out, and using the imagery here, you see that we have a farmer leaving a farmhouse, and he has plenty to share, but maybe he's not sharing enough, which made me think of how
somebody who's older has put a lot of time into it, is ready to move on, but is struggling to let go of the control that they once had and the power that they once had. I drew it out here to give me a little bit of an idea of what the people are going through in my writing, and I wrote a story about how they came to see Evelyn, the witch that I'm playing as, and how they begin to solve the problem. The regulants that we are looking for is Coffee Cap and Surgeon Sap. Those were determined to be the best to work through, and they were both in the forest, so I didn't have to go far to find those things. This sickness had a timer, and so we had to be quick and be able to gather the regulants and make the potion before the timer ran out, which had 4 different segments. If I was not able to succeed on solving the timer, then the patient would run away and steal some money, and my reputation would go down by 1 point. For this one, I ended up pulling a 10 of lotuses for the story, which is greater than the Coffee Cap, which the Coffee Cap had. It took 4 points to find the Coffee Cap, and I pulled 10, so I was able to overcome this. I did accidentally add an extra point because I thought I had a sickle at the time, but rereading the rules, I realized that I didn't have a sickle, and I needed to buy the sickle first before I could use it. Even though the event had me running into a fairy circle where my vision began to swim, I lose off balance and hear voices in another language as I awake in the center of a fairy circle, which caused me to subtract 1 foraging point. To find the Surgeon Sap, I pulled the 10 of birds. And since the events can't happen twice once you've already pulled them, I just used the detail on the cards to help me solve the mystery and add more to the story. Since you see we have these carrion eaters around a corpse, I described how the beautiful day and the sparkliness that you see for this card turned dark, and the creatures that once seemed pleasant became sinister and even malicious as the day came to an end. And if it wasn't for the help of my familiar, I would not have been able, or my character would not have been able to escape. Thankfully, Surgeon Sap is less than the 10 of birds. I did go ahead and apply the -1 foraging point, but the event that I chose was a bit different for it to happen in writing the story. Either way, I won, and I wrote with consequences, just because I think the sinister feeling from this card really acts as a very good detail to have in this time. And with that, I was able to make the potion with a +2 points of sweetness, and I named it Coffee Cap Taffy and gained +1 for my reputation and 28 silver for my troubles. In my downtime, I set myself a timer of 8. At the time, I had forgotten that the timer was actually 6, and began foraging for the Coffee Cap, seeing that it was a good thing to have around, and got a bonus of meeting a druid in the woods who gifted me some songberries. And then I took time to visit the village, where I interacted with a cleric at one of the temples, and I choose not to explore, but I did choose to do some housekeeping and just pulled some cards to see what kind of fun events that happened around the house as the character is doing some housekeeping. As I have played more adventures with this, I've made myself a quick guide to remember everything that happened in week 1, 2, 3, and 4. I tend to forget what I was working on and how the story is put together. But this is okay. Since I've been really into zines, I decided to put everything that I currently have together for the first part, which is just the general introduction of how to play and the adventure my character went through into a zine, which this copy didn't turn out as nice as I wanted it to. That's okay. I'm still kind of working out my printer settings and getting a better idea of how to print things out. But overall, I'm calling it Apothecary and Conundrums, where you can see the letters that I've put together with a detailed description from the anonymous writer, how I've chosen to put one of my bookmarks together for the story, the original letter that I wrote, a copy of the artwork that I have in my sketchbook, how I laid out my game, a full, properly written out version of the letter in plain script on the computer so that way it's easier to see. As you can see, the printer that I was using was running out of ink, so it's a little hard to see, but on the digital version you will be able to see that for yourself. A map of the area, artwork of the characters that I created. This has been a very fun journey to be a part of, and I look forward to writing more. Thanks for joining me as I go through and share with you this adventure. It is a really fun thing that I am going to do my best to update you as I go and progress with the story a little bit more, and I'll try and be a bit playful with it and explore the different things that I can do with this. If you like the zine that I created, you can find that on my website, available for download. I don't have physical copies of it yet because I'm still trying to figure out my own personal printing process. And once I get that a bit more solidified, then I will be offering physical copies for people to buy. But for now, it's just a nice little download that you can print out and read about my own adventure outside of this video sphere, because sometimes it's nice to look over the artwork and things that I've created for this. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will catch you all soon. Thanks so much. Bye!